All right, starting prep work on doing this Corona mod. So I used a fiberglass scratch pin to take off the top layer of coating on the PCB board here. And you can see that it's kind of got a dusty look over the where it's been scratched off. It's basically just a really light abrasive. It's just a group of fiberglass fibers. Once we have that, I'll just wipe it off a little bit. You should be able to see and tell kind of versus the before that the console pads appear nice and shiny now. They're ready to wick up some additional solder. So I'm going to use my my Amtech flux here, and I'll apply a generous amount across the surfaces. And my soldering iron is fired up. So we're going to go ahead and start the process of actually soldering. Hi, Flow Mug 360. It's weird, YouTube tells me that no one's... Oh, now it just jumped to 3. Now we got some people watching. Hi, guys. Alright, so what I'm doing now is pre-tinning the spots that my NAND wires are going to attach to by flowing some additional solder to the locations. It's going to make it easy when I go to attach my ends. I'll simply re-liquefy the solder and then insert it into the pin end. We're going to be using an Ace V3 chip here, and this is a Corona motherboard. This one is a 16 megabyte NAND, but it does, or it will require the Postfix adapter because it does not have normal post out in the standard location on the underside of the motherboard. And we'll get to that here in a little while. We're going to try to do this whole console. Alright, so now that I've got my spots pre-tinned, there's an additional section or component right here that's really difficult to see in the video. There's 2 little resistors that are missing and not bridged. And what I can do is show you on this image here, these that are highlighted with the yellow circle, that's what I'm referring to here, right here. So these 2 points being missing would normally go to our E and F pads, and since they're open and unbridged, we need to go ahead and bridge those so that the signal will be carried all the way to the pad that we're going to solder to. So if we go back here, what you're going to see me do now is go ahead and solder some little tiny segments. What I do is I take one of these capacitors here and I'll clip off just a minute tiny amount of each of the legs equal to the distance between those unjumpered points, and then I'll use those little bits to help with doing the jumper. It's just wide enough that it's fairly difficult to bridge those with just solder. I have done it. It takes so much time that it's not really tons of worth it in my opinion. Milltown says, "Hey bro, you should do some videos on how to set up the mods and update the launcher." That's not really my forte, man. I pretty much stick to doing the hardware mods themselves, and very rarely do I get involved with much software at all. I know a little bit, enough to be dangerous, and I have gone online and messed around literally like twice but probably most of my customers know how to use the online and modding capabilities. They probably know how to use it better than I do, because like I said, I pretty much focus on the hardware stuff. And I mean, it's not that I have a problem with it. I think I've maybe picked up a reputation as being the modder that doesn't like modding, and that's not true. I don't actually have any problem. There we go. Got that little guy bridged. Now we'll do the next one. Okay, so the fear asks, what am I trying to do here? So right now, this is a retail Xbox 360 Slim Corona motherboard, and I am going to and am modding it on the live stream here. So when we get done, this thing will be an RGH, I guess is bottom line. So once it's RGH, it'll be able to run unsigned code, and running unsigned code would make it able to do all that fancy cool stuff that an RGH and a JTAG can do. So now in the process, what I need to do is solder in the NAND read-write headers. So this is the little plug that's going to go into the NAND X. And then on the other end, we have just loose wires that I've soldered into with a little bit more resilient kind of steel pins or just pins. And then I'm going to go ahead and install those into the proper locations on the pin headers we just worked on. To give everybody just a little bit of a review or a heads up here, that's what these are. So 1 black, 2 brown, 3 red, 4 orange, 5 yellow, which also happens to be ground, and then 6 and 7 green and blue. So I'm literally just following this diagram, and we'll be soldering those into the connector. How much would it be if I sent you the 360 Jasper Elite? I just put wire install on it and a Rev C in the shipping box in a mini box. It needs the NAND dumped and the Rev C installed. So $75 is what my send-in service costs. That includes me providing the chip. I don't really do any sort of deal if you want to provide the chip. That's not really how I operate. I specifically choose the chips that I use on a per console basis, and that's so that I know the history of the chip, where it's been, if it's been damaged, if it's new, where it came from, and then so that I also have control or blame over the boot times. So not interested in your existing chip, but if you're interested in the send-in service, you can send that in. You can find out more about that on my website, store.weekendmodder.com, where all the send-in services are detailed. From which TV? You got a Slim 360 delivered to your house for $150. Great, good job. Hopefully it boots fast and is good and reliable for you. Congratulations. Let's see, soldering in the yellow there. So there's that side done. And then now we're going to do the blue and green for the other side. All right. So there are our NAND read-write wires installed. So what I'm going to do now is switch over to JRunner here. What I'm doing physically on the console is plugging it into power, not turning it on, just connecting the power supply. And then I've got my NAND X, and I'm just plugging into that header that I showed before. So now here within JRunner, all I need to do is click this little question mark here, and it does my flash config. We see 43,000, just like we expect, which tells us we have a Corona. So I can go ahead and hit read NAND. This input name thing pops up. You don't have to fill that at all, just hit OK. And it started reading the NAND, and you can see the progress here. If you want to see the file as it's being written to, if we hit show working folder here, this output folder pops up, and you can see here the NAND dumps of the particular console. Okay, great, Twitch TV. We're all really happy for you. It boots okay and I download many games. Great, good job. I have a question. Sorry if it's on your website, but say if I do a send-in service, would everything be the same that you do to pre-modded consoles? Yeah. If you do a send-in service, I get I mod them just as I do the pre-mods. So same exact process, same software load, all that stuff. While I'm waiting for the NAND dump to dump, what I'm doing here, if I go back to camera, is I'm just unpacking this Postfix adapter. So I just removed it from its packing container. This is what's going to get installed around the CPU, or XC GPU, because it's a combined 2-in-1. And that's what's going to give us our post signal. And then we're going to use this ACE V3, and we will use it to RGH the console. So the wire pack's down here in the bottom. And can you RGH 1.2 a Corona 4GB? No, RGH 1.2 is a FAT mod type. You can do RGH2 is really the only mod type for Corona, but they do run around and call them different things. So they'll call it sRGH if you're using the stuff developed by 15432. So sRGH. The overwhelming enthusiasm for the Twitch TV guy. I don't mean to be rude to him, the Twitch TV dude. I'm excited that you're happy, but it sure seemed like, hey, I got a console for $150 and you sell them for more. So it sounded like it was going to roll into an advertisement. Because if he got a 250 gig, slim, preloaded, flashed, all that for $150, he got a good deal. Because my prices are higher than that. I don't consider my prices ridiculous, but they're definitely more than that for that style of console. Dashboard version does not matter. The Corona can be on any dash. There is no difference in how you would mod a Corona based on the dashboard version. Can you make a pipe bomb out of your RGH? I'm sure you could. Do I play football because I look really buff? I'm actually a giant fat guy. Don't worry. Not giant fat guy, but I'm chubby. So no, I don't play football. I'm 30 years old, and I have a wife and 3 kids, and a car, and a job, and all that stuff. All right, so switching back to JRunner here. This is actually the second read that it's completing here. You can see the first one completed the nandump1.bin. And then the second one is currently going on of the nandump2.bin. So when this finishes, when it gets to 3FF, it'll do a comparison of the two files and make sure they're the same. And then we should get this nans are the same message. My son squeezed all my flux out. I don't know what that means. I could be a lineman. Thanks, Dank Bill. Let's see. So anyway, NANDs are the same. That's what we expect. That means we have 2 identical copies of the original NAND. So we're going to go ahead and hit create ECC and then write ECC. So I'm going to write that ECC to the console. Now the result of that are going to mean that this console will no longer boot retail as it sits right now. This console, because it has the ECC written to it, will require the glitch chip in order to now successfully boot Zell. So I'm going to go ahead and move these, position them a little bit out of the way. We've got our ACE chip that we started preparing. And then we're just going to go ahead and place it on the console directly beneath the NAND headers and positioned right about here. And now we get the pleasure of actually wiring this bad boy up. Why don't I do LEDs and window mods? I feel like I answer this question pretty frequently. It's in demand. It is. People like it. People think it's cool, but nobody wants to pay for the amount of time that it really takes in order to do that stuff. To do a window cutout, to do it right, sitting there with your Dremel and cutting the dang thing out and then sanding off all the rough edges and painting the whole thing, that's 2 or 3 hours. My time, by my calculations, is worth $20-25 an hour at minimum. That's what I make more than that in my day job, that sort of thing. So if you aren't willing to spend $60 on just the LED cutout, that kind of proves my point. Is that's the minimum amount of time or the minimum amount of money that it would make sense for me to do that. And then people don't just want square, rounded cutouts. They want cutouts of their, side thing. They want cutouts of their football team. They want cutouts of a picture of their grandma. They want a vinyl decal label on it. They want a custom paint job. It's just too in-depth for me to deal with. Too many people with too many different options. So I like to keep things standardized. I have 5 or 10 different types of consoles that I install stuff onto, a couple of different types of chips. Primarily, everything is the same and repeatable and no variation. If you want a custom thing, dude, there's totally people out there that will hook you up. Go for it. Why haven't you moved to Instagram? I do have an Instagram account. If you go to my website, it's on a banner ad. You can click it and follow the link, store.weekendmonitor.com. Do I install menus? No, I don't. Period. The end. Just don't do it. Not even for extra money. I'm sorry. The reason, primarily, is because mod menus require the game to be installed. And installing the game with that you didn't purchase, from me or whatever, would be all big sellers are on there. I want to unlock DVD drive to get Freestyle Dash. I can pay $100. They will take the console from you and bring it back next day. Twitch TV dude, that statement didn't make sense. The fear. No, they didn't stop supporting the Xbox 360. They stopped manufacturing new Xbox 360s. That's the big news that everybody seems to be in a huff about. So they were very clear that they intend to plan on supporting Xbox Live ongoing, probably for a very long time on the 360, because now with emulation, the backwards compatibility on the Xbox One, that's actually using the 360 servers and stuff. So if you want the backwards compatible games online functions to keep working, then you have to keep those services up. So that means there's really no reason to not allow the regular 360 to access them as well, since you have to let the emulated 360s inside the Xbox One access them. So that's what that's about. So what I'm doing right now is removing the X clamp so that I can get access under the heatsink to the XC GPU. And that is where we will install the Postfix adapter. So just so everybody can see here, the area that we're looking at right here that I'm rubbing on real fast in this corner, let me take the rest of this off real quick. There we go. So right here we can see that the traces, this darker colored area right here, the traces are not present for the Postfix. So that tells us that we are for sure going to need a Postfix adapter. So that's what this bad boy is all about. So this will slide up underneath there when positioned correctly, and it will make contact with one of those little solder pads or balls, and we'll be able to get the signal that we need out from underneath there. So that locks it down and in place. And then here's kind of a quick tip for you, and maybe I'll edit this out into one of my quick tip series. When installing a Postfix adapter, what you want to do is take a regular multimeter and set it to the 200K mark. This is just a El Cheapo Harbor Freight $5 multimeter. I've got it set on the 200K resistance, and we get a reading of basically nothing, 1 there. And with a properly installed Postfix adapter, I'm going to place my black on just the AV shield up here, just on the loose metal, just right there. And then I'm going to place the other pin on the contact that's making connection with the post. And we should get in the neighborhood of 39 to 45 sort of reading out of that. And this should be the same if I touch any of these other pads over here as well. Roughly the same. And that tells me that the Postfix adapter is making the contact that it needs to make up underneath there. And so it's working. This is like physics. No, man, come on. This isn't physics. This is barely even educational. This is how to hack your Xbox, dude. Alright, so from there, what I like to do is just lock this sucker in place with some hot glue. These Postfix adapters, if they shift around in shipping or whatever, can cause the console not to boot because that post signal that we're getting out of it is a requirement. So if I just do several dabs around in kind of key location like that, it keeps the thing in check and doesn't allow it to move. And then we don't have any issues. I did ship one of these one time that came loose in shipping, and then had to deal with, a return and all that sort of stuff. Which, of course, we did, or I did, and we handled it the right way and got it fixed up for the guy and stuff. All right. Just about out of all my thermal paste here. Don't need a lot more. There we go. Just another little pea-sized bit. We'll freshen it up. When that smashes down, it spreads out really nice and wide. So I just apply some kind of firm pressure there, and it just does exactly what it needs to do. You're so smart that if, oh shit, you know how much calories it is and what I pooped out. Okay. Alright, so the X clamp is back in position and we've got our Postfix adapter installed. That's going to be our point C. As far as which one of these pads to use, what a Postfix adapter really is doing is giving you options basically on a faux wire length. So this one that's labeled 5, then 50, then 70, then 90, then 120, what that's really saying is centimeters of wire. Because if you look really closely at the surface of this thing, you can see how it's ribbed. It's actually just the wires running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So really it's just a convenient way to give you all the different wire lengths where all you have to do is switch what wire you're soldered to, and you've effectively changed the length of your wire. For this particular install, I happen to know the 5 pad with the default wire length of the red C wire works quite well. So I leave it routed just like that. No problems. Holy shit, Down syndrome is here. Xbox modder is Down syndrome guy? Hi, weekend modder? I don't know. Are you talking about the fear? Because that one seemed more weird to me. Anyway, so there's our point C. So really our last point is just that point D, which is the CPU RST. And for that one, we will solder in the D pad here. And then the routing on that just goes through this hole right next to the south bridge. Pull it down and through. And then it pops out on this side. As far as the location to solder to, it is right at the end of the point right there. Let me see, is there an image of that within JRunner? Corona. I don't think so. I think that's not the default recommended CPU RST point. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, I don't have an image of that one handy. There's a cluster of points here, and it is the top right one as you kind of face it from the direction that I am. So from the larger hole facing up, a little cluster, there's the whole section. So up until you hit this resistor and other assembly. So all the way up and over to the right, and it's that little point there. Oh, sorry, I pulled the power cord for the camera. Made it all jiggly. Okay, what? Me, the fear? Huh? Now you guys are all confused. The Zodiac Killer. Oh, you're voting for Ted Cruz? Come on. Everybody knows Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. There we go. Nice little connection there. Do a little bit of cleanup. And then, as per normal, running out of hot glue. Now the glue here on this side is mostly a brace. If the wire gets mistakenly tugged on, I don't want it to rip the pad off. So I'm gluing down from the position. I'm not overlapping it. So if I need to undo it, I can, but it's also securing my wire from getting pulled on from the other side and then damaging the contact point. So now from the top, my install looks just like this. All my wires here, to my C, one to the underside to the D point, and we're going to go ahead and boot the thing up. Who am I voting for? I have no idea. I mean, I'm so disenchanted with the political process in this country that it's hard to feel like any vote counts. So, all right. So I've gone ahead and reinserted the ring of light, and we're going to go ahead and boot this thing up. And what we should get here is a Zell. So I'm plugging in my HDMI. I'm plugging in my Ethernet port, and then from a video perspective, let's see if we can do this. So we'll go ahead and boot the console. We are getting glitching. You can see that green light up. That would be one cycle. So we just got a first glitch instant boot. And then if we come over here to the console, we can see that the thing will boot up Zell. So I'm going to let it boot Zell here, and I'm going to scroll back to this area so that we don't accidentally get the CPU key on camera here. And now I have captured the CPU key. So that was good. So we'll go ahead and power it off. So we got a first glitch instant boot to Zell. And then we went ahead and pulled that into JRunner using the network config portion. And now we are going to go ahead and use JRunner. And I'm just going to click the Create XE Build Image option, which I'm not showing because the CPU key is kind of embedded in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and reconnect physically my NAND. I've got just standby power on. Again, the console's off. And I'm clicking Write NAND, and it's writing the updated UPD flash.bin file to the console. So now what I typically like to do during that is go ahead and work on the ring of light. So go ahead and get those LEDs all prepped and ready to go. BGA rework, Xbox Modder asking me about that. So yeah, I have attempted that. I have an AOUE, whatever, I don't know, a hot air reflow station and another infrared preheater and stuff. I thought for a little while that I wanted to get into that and mess with reballs and reflows and all that. But the bottom line is that stuff is, one, really, really, really precise. Not that you necessarily have to know or be super smart to do it, but one, you have to be super persistent because the nailing the technique can take a little time. And two, you have to have a lot of time on your hands because to do a proper slow warm-up of a motherboard, reflow, and then bring it back down to temperature and all that sort of stuff, I mean, that's minimum 45-minute, hour-long process, something like that. Not to mention the amount of time that reballs and reflows take. It's shaky. IP webcam. Yeah, what do you mean? IP webcam, that's definitely what I'm using to broadcast from my phone. It works pretty good so far. Alright, so that little chime that you guys may or may not have heard was the completion of the write of the updated NAND file. So I'm going to go ahead and shake the camera some more. I'm going to disconnect this one, disconnect that. Do I watch Mr. Mario 2011 podcast? You know, I'm not sure. I mean, Mr. Mario is a generic name, but there was a dude who went by the name Mr. Mario who really irritated the crap out of me by posting a bunch of advertisements on my channel for his own consoles or something. It might not be the same guy. I'm not saying that it's the guy that whoever is running this podcast you're talking about. But if it is the same guy, that might be why he doesn't, or we haven't had anything to do together, because I had to ban that guy hard from my channel because every time I would post a video and somebody would post a comment, hey man, where can I buy this from? So my video, somebody posting a question, where can I buy this? And he would reply with, oh, I got one for sale, come buy from me. And that just really grated on my nerves. So I banned him from my channel. So he can't comment on it anymore. He was using his name. Yeah, that could be totally a different. Like I said, it may not be the same guy. So if this guy's a legit, normal, like respectable guy or whatever, and he has a Xbox modding podcast, I'd be happy to do something like that. That would be fine. I got a nice mic that I could put on and do a podcast or something. Tell your wife I said hi. Hi, wife.
Hi.
The internet says hi. Do you say hi back to the internet?
Hi, internet.
My wife says hi, internet. There you go. There we go. Mr. Mario 2011 here. Search Google. Mr. Mario 2011.
Hey, what is going on, everyone?
3,000 subscribers. That's pretty crazy. Limited runs, whatever. How can I? What do I have to do? I go about. Support. Send message. People are telling me you would like to have me on a podcast? Question mark. There you go. I sent him a personal message right now, live on the YouTubes. So if he genuinely wants that to happen, now he can just reply to me and we'll make it happen. Alright. What color LEDs does this joker want? Blue. Blue, 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 blue. There we go. Was I doing all that work off camera? Did you guys see the rest of that stuff? That would be weird. Sorry if I did that. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 LEDs. The cool thing about doing LEDs on a slim console is that the polarity of all of the locations is basically the same. If you think about it in terms of up and down, the negative is always up on these slim ring of lights. So if you learn the orientation on your LEDs, you don't have to look back at a diagram every time you do one. You can just no, you know, I've not really had too many people just leave completely unspecified. So if they completely unspecify, I just leave green. But I think a lot of people just really like blue. Or they didn't really care about having it modded in the first place, like the ring of light. And so since they saw that it was included, they just go ahead and pick blue, because why not? It's free. You know, it's already built into the cost of what they're paying. I need a curvy tip. Every time I do a live stream, somebody tells me about a new piece of equipment I need, or I need to get a wide tip, or a conical tip, or a whatever tip. I'm not saying there's not some good other practices to be had, but you know, I feel like I get the job done pretty well, given that. But if I stumble across one or something, I would be remiss to dismiss it. So I would certainly try it, give it shot, but I can't say for sure if that would be better or worse. These things are super tiny, super tiny. There's 10 people watching. That's kind of cool. Using this Kapton tape roll that I've got it setting on, it's kind of a neat other little kind of pro quick tip or whatever. If you set it on a roll of tape like that, you see this thing that hangs off the end of it makes it so that it sits nice and level, and then it has the added benefit of like being totally rotatable, so you can get access to whatever section of it is easiest and the best way to work. Quite functional. Alright, last LED. And then we should be able to show a final boot of the console. After we boot the console, I guess I'll do a few minutes of straight up Q&A, where we'll just do specific questions, and I'll try to do as much demonstration and real world answering as I can. So if you've got a question now, throw it out, and we'll get to it here in just a few minutes. I'll scroll back up if I need to. So, now with our console, right, we've successfully RGH'd it. We got our CPU key via Zell, then we just updated the LEDs and wrote the official NAND back. So when I boot it this time, we should still get glitches. And then we should boot and see essentially like a normal dashboard, because it's an XE build, sort of dash now. And once we get that, we can load, freestyle dash, dash launch, XEX menu, all that sort of stuff, because then the console is in RGH. So this is the part where I would also do my boot timing. Oh, and I would make a note here that it looks like we've got one LED out, but we did get a successful boot here. And here's the console booted up. And yeah, so there we go. It is set up and working. So let's see, webcam plus Chrome, let's do that one. I'm going to get rid of this camera, or move it while it's not being super shaky. All right, so do I ever think of doing a retro console mods like high def NES, HDMI, N64, etc.? So those fall probably along the same line. I mean, that stuff is software, right? You can run a Nintendo 64 emulator, you can run a NES emulator, you can run all of these things, but the cases that it comes in, while you certainly could do a cool theme on there, make one look like an old school N64, whatever, that's not what I'm likely to do. Super shaky. You called me? What? Yeah. Your name is It's Shaky. Yes. The video was shaky for a moment. I'm sorry. Okay. Any other questions? We're going to wrap this live stream up with the completed mod of a Corona using an Ace V3. From here, what I'm going to do, just to summarize, I'm just going to remove that NAND header and then possibly work on some timing to improve the boot times further. We'll have to do a boot average to see. That last boot just took, I think it was 5 or 6 cycles at least. And that's not really good enough for leaving my shop. But what we can do is boot it a 10-time average and see where that's at. Because sometimes if 1 or 2 out of 10 is 5 or 10 cycles, and then the rest of them are all good first, second glitches, then that's not worth working on further. That's as good as it's going to get. I run 470 degrees Celsius on there. Is this my fastest time RGHing a console? No. I mean, you guys have only seen the mod of this sort of thing. Young Metro timing files. I don't even know what that is. Let's do a Google search. Yeah, that doesn't come up with anything, so I'm pretty sure you're just saying that about the whole "Does Young Metro trust you" thing that got brought up on one of the previous live streams. Hey, baby. That was wet. Yeah, what is Young Metro timing file? Xbox mod. This guy gets on all the time and goes on about "Does Young Metro trust you" or whatever, and he's just a joker. You can't take what he's saying seriously. All right. What was the first thing I modded or soldered? First thing I soldered was probably some other random piece of electronics, a refrigerator or something. It was funny when I had no idea. Young Metro trust me? What are you talking about? I had no idea what that meant. I had to Google it afterwards to figure out Young Metro is a rapper, artist, or something like that, I guess. Set some records. I would be down with. I don't know if you guys would think this would be cool. I would think this would be cool to do a live stream mod competition sort of thing. So like me and another modder get two roughly identical consoles and live stream, like time them, mod them at the same time, and then basically have a competition out of it, right? See who can do it faster, me and Salamods or Rodent or 5K or somebody like that, some other pretty big seller. That would be kind of neat. No news on next gen modding. Nothing out that I know about. So, all right. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and call the stream. Today was a little bit about practicing with my new transitions and nifty little things that I can do here with the streaming. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and call it. And you guys have a great rest of your day. And I hope that this was